Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That's right, it's your Impact Attack. This is all yours. We have nothing to do with it except for we're holding it for you. We're just going to hold you. It's like when you say hold my beer and you go do something crazy. It's like, okay, hold my Impact Attack and we are the ones to hold it. But who are we? I am Jamie Williams, also known as the Vet. With me, as always, my tag team partner Brandon, tagging in. Brandon, what is going on?
Not much, man. Uh, in wrestling though, kind of a bit of a big weekend with at least one kind of pretty major piece of news happening, which I'm sure we'll get to in the show.
Oh, I'm sure we'll get to it, and we will get to it rather quickly. But whose Impact Attack is it? It's yours, right? So not yours, but yours, the royal you, the theirs. Who whose Impact Attack are we holding on to right now? As of this moment, which is 9:31 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we're live here recording this, whose Impact Attack is this?
Let's see, we got hanging out with us right now, Lab Rat, Lisbeth, Javi Uchida, and Retro Rocket Review. How you guys doing tonight? I hope you're having a great night and had a great day. Whoop whoop, let's get it, get it.
Oh man, that's well, we love all of them, but and that's not enough. We're gonna need some more people whose Impact Attack this is. This is this won't do. But I'm sure we'll get some filing in here and there as we get the ball rolling. So, how about that news that you were talking about? It's something that was speculated on for weeks, and everybody had their own take on it. But apparently now we all know the truth. Um, and that is right. Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge, is now officially all elite. So, making his big entrance at Wrestle Dream. I assume this is part of, if not the entire thing, of Tony Khan saying there's a new era in AEW. So that's certainly one way to do it. Um, so yeah, there he is. He's there. He made his debut. I didn't even see it yet. I've only heard the news. I haven't even, as I was explaining, before we went on the air, just so much wrestling at once and then like almost nothing the rest of the time. I really wish all the companies would get together and coordinate their weekends and say, oh, you got a show on this weekend and there's absolutely nothing going on this other weekend. Well, that would be a good time for our show then, and to have everybody, not just cram everything in one week. But um so I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it. But what do you think? Here's Edge. He went to AEW. It's that simple.
It's definitely opens up the door for a lot of interesting and fresh feuds and angles. My main concern is just for his health and well-being, because we've seen what goes on there, and I'm legit worried for the guy. That's my first thing is like, are they going to take care of him? Are they going to protect him and make sure that he's not in a situation where he could end up crippled or, God forbid, dies in the middle of the ring?
Well, let me stop you right there, even though it sounded like you stopped. Uh, I'm just gonna say that. Well, I mean, it's really everyone's own responsibility, right? And that extends to even the most bottom guy of AEW. It's up to you to say what you will and won't do, and we've talked about that here on this show. Just you and I have gone, back and forth about this. Not back and forth at arguing, but just at different times we've discussed how if you're not comfortable with doing something, you don't do it. It doesn't matter if it's, it doesn't matter who's telling you to do it. You have to stand up for yourself and not only for your own safety, which is foremost in all of this, but also just for the quality of the show. If you're not good at doing something, no one's gonna want to see you fuck it up or anything else. So for many reasons, people have to take their own responsibility when it comes to pro wrestling and what they will and won't do. And Edge is certainly earned. Nobody's going to question. This isn't going to be a situation of one of the Dark Order guys coming and say, "Hey, I was thinking dropping you on your head on the outside. What do you think?" Like this is, it's never going to be something like that, right? Anyway, but it's more like hopefully Edge isn't going to feel the need to do anything himself, because ever since he's been back, he's done some ridiculous things, since his post retirement unretirement. And even the last match he had with Sheamus was, some would argue a little much, just for a random SmackDown match that had no meaning whatsoever. But so I think it's not a question of is AEW going to take care of Edge. We know they're not taking care of anybody. Just ask John Moxley, right? So that's it's all on him, basically, is what I'm trying to say in a long and roundabout way. I'll answer Retro Rocker Review. He says, "Do you want quantity or quality of people here in the chat room?" Well, both. I want a high quantity of high quality people. So there's no reason to have to choose.
Exactly. Like do you want to be loved more, or people that love you or fear you? Both. I want them to be afraid of how much they love me.
That's right. That's the best way to do it. So yeah, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm not too worried about Edge. He knows what he's doing, right? Or does he? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what he's already scheduled for a match, apparently.
Yep, him and Luchasaurus.
Right. Now that, assuming everything goes well, that should be safe. He should live through that. Because Luchasaurus' shit looks so bad that it couldn't hurt anybody in the first place. So that'll be all right. It's just a question of if he tries to choke slam him through something. That's really the only dangerous proposition there. But yeah, and we want to know what you guys think. Oh, Al Robinson snuck in. I didn't see that. Sorry. If you if you have thoughts on Edge, go ahead and put those in the chat. Anything that you think. But so yeah. What else can we say about it? I mean, shit. Like I said, I didn't even watch it. I didn't even watch it. Didn't watch his debut.
I mean, there's a lot of different directions they can go. Like, of course, now you have Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys in the same promotion again. The Dudley Boys are kind of essentially free agents. So, who knows?
Oh, God. No, to your point, I don't want to see any of that. I don't want to see what these guys are going to try to do.
I guarantee you, if those three teams got together again, it would probably be some kind of cinematic Broken Hardys universe thing.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you imagine? I mean, Bully's been getting a lot of practice with phony cinematic shit. Like that's is that what he's ready to? He's just been dipping his toe in preparation for the real thing. It's interesting. So.
And again, you can easily bring in Gangrel, bring in Spike Dudley, get Lita involved again.
Yep. We'll just get a whole reunion over in AEW because, we need them to be even more like WCW than even the direction they're already going in so many ways. The Liz says, so Al Robinson says no thank you, which could be his response to Edge in AEW, or he could be saying no comma thank you or whatever for Me acknowledging it, whatever. It doesn't matter. Either way, I'll take it. Liz says, so seeing Edge and Christian together one last time before they both retire will be good, but all in all, Edge isn't the guy who is going to push AEW to the next level. Yeah, I don't know if anybody really thought he was, or if they're trying to convince himself that he is, but hopefully nobody did. He's probably there for more than a payday. Edge is rich. He doesn't need any money. He's not going to not get money. That's for sure. You can always, as Mr. Burns says, I trade it all for a little bit more. But uh, nonetheless, he's also, I think one of the things that's attractive, and also to her point, seeing Edge and Christian together, yeah, you'll see them together, but with what Christian is doing now, where like most of his gimmick revolves around commenting on people's dead fathers, I don't know if Edge wants to just get right into that and attach himself to it, like he's probably going to enjoy the baby faceness of his arrival, I think. So we'll see, but it could be an Edge versus Christian or something like that. Who knows? We'll see. Or he'll pull him off that path of disrespecting people's fathers. Who knows? But yeah. Labrat says Walker's wheelchair and cane match. Chris Winland is here, who just recently was one half of a what was it? Was it a Wrestle Dream review? Or was it a No Mercy review? It was some review. He was on with Jimmy T. Did a review for the PWC. So congratulations, Chris Winland, making his a debut as an analyst. He says, word up, Hameen Army. It's sad how all the top stars in AEW are from WWE while failing to build their own superstars. I mean, I say, yeah, No Mercy. Okay. I would say this, Chris. I would say, it's not that they haven't built their own stars. It's just that AEW is just not big enough. It's and that's a function of not only is it always a struggle to get, look, it's always a struggle to get off the ground. Look at what show we're doing right now. We're doing the Impact Attack. We're still talking about Impact Wrestling all these years later. And it's and TNA had guys like Hulk Hogan and Kurt Angle and all this stuff, and they were just never, it was just never the same, and even that you could say they weren't building up their own stars. They were trying to build up their own stars, but even when they brought in the other stars, they never got big enough. It's tough. It's tough to run a wrestling promotion, especially in the Vince Jr. era, after he stomped out all the wrestling promotions on his way to a monopoly. Yeah. And no one's gonna know. No one knows any of the four pillars, but hopefully, they will know if any of those four pillars go to WWE. They'll know the pillars. MJF, they'll know him. So yeah, we'll see. So Retro Rocker Review says Edge will bring in more viewers, not as many as TK thinks it will. Al Robinson, no thank you to seeing Dudley Boys Hardy's Edge at Christian. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. But the other point, I had something off of Lizbeth's comment, but I can't remember. I guess I was just going to touch on sort of Edge taking a role of, leadership and, maybe trying to just be a player coach the way CM Punk was trying to do. And hopefully they won't run him out of town eventually on the same, because it was all good when CM Punk first got there too, right? So as soon as you start trying to talk sense to people, that's when they decide you gotta go. It happened with Cody, it happened with Punk, and it could happen with Edge. As soon as he gets fed up with trying to speak to a brick wall, perhaps he'll just be like, well, when's my contract up?
Wrestling business going to wrestling business.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it's always been too. So it's tough. And then you have you know, you have No Mercy, right, which also took place this weekend, which is a big deal, and which I will have to do my own sort of review on Wednesday to cover that, along with the fresh episode of NXT with Big Ray. But um, I'm just sitting there when I'm watching that show, and I'm just thinking, this is this is a show. This is matches. This is people doing things to each other in a ring. I don't I really don't know what I'm supposed to think or say about it. Which that's kind of like how I feel about this episode of Impact. It's like you guys just did stuff and I have to talk about it now. I don't know if there's a lot of like really great deep conversations to be had about this subject matter. Um I mean, I know that I know that you don't watch NXT, Brandon, but you had to one time when you filled in for me on Next Level Review, and thank you for that. Uh, in your impression, was something, if I'm not mistaken, was something along the lines of "What the fuck is this shit?" Right? Like when you watch the show.
A little bit, yes. It's kind of like it was the most basic, simplistic. Like the storylines were as low stakes as you could get, and there was really very little nuance to anybody. It was basically like, okay, you're either a good guy or a bad guy, and that's it. Not really any depth. Like
Yeah,
there were a couple of like exceptions, but even those weren't like that far removed from the rule.
well, I'll put it to you like this, right? They are clearly trying to you know what's funny? NXT is kind of doing a they're kind of doing an AEW because they're bringing in WWE stars also. The only difference is the WWE stars are still under contract with WWE. So they're coming down to NXT for whatever reason. Creative's got nothing for you. You could help this talent. Will maybe it's to bring eyeballs to the show. If you think anybody's gonna watch, you think one more person's gonna watch this show because Baron Corbin's on it, you're fucking crazy. But whatever.
It's possible because when they brought what was it, Dominic down there, they saw like a increase of like somewhere between 100 and 200,000 people.
Right. And when Becky went down there was even more. And now that Becky's the champion, that's part of it. But I'm sure she's also pulling double duty as a scout, because there's a lot of women in NXT, and up on Raw and SmackDown, it's a lot of thin. I know saying that is funny because Nia Jax just returned, but I'm just saying their women's roster is thin up there in terms of depth. Like, yes, they have people, but you know, for several reasons, not the least of which is they've marginalized all of their talents across the board. Which, when you do that, when you marginalize everybody, then doing things like sending people to NXT to help improve the ratings of the show, for example, if that is indeed what their thought process is, that's you just made them useless on your main program, and then you send them down and they're supposed to be like a ratings draw. Now that doesn't necessarily apply to Dominic, for example, but for Becky Lynch, I mean, she was involved in this long thing with Trish Stratus, and it was long, and it was clear that they were not putting the effort behind it that they could have. It's extremely clear to anybody that's reading between the lines and seeing, reading the tea leaves, as Stevie Ray likes to say, or anybody that knows what they're looking at realizes that they quickly gave up on that whole thing, and they just left those women out there to twist in the wind. It was really bad. It would be like, they'd put matches on in the the pre-main event death spot on the show, or they'd have them go out there for like 10-minute promo segments that went nowhere, almost like you could just see there was like just pull time. They're probably having people tell them in the ring go longer, stall, just anything to make them look bad and to make the people lose interest. So you could have had Becky, you could have several people red hot. um Instead, they're kind of lukewarm at best and probably cold, and then you go down to NXT and they still get a big ratings boost. Now imagine what kind of ratings boost you could have been if they were red hot. But if you wanted them red hot, you would have used them better on your show. So it's like you're sabotaging yourselves, and to what end? I don't understand the thought process there.
Becky and Trish is like, if you do it and build it right, that's a main event, like house drawing match.
Yeah, I think so. Instead, what was it like? The opening match of their cage match was went on first of
Yep.
whatever pay-per-view that was. Like, I don't even remember. That's how memorable it was.
And not even one of the big four pay-per-views either.
Right. So anyway, so back to No Mercy. So another guy they sent out there that I already mentioned, Baron Corbin or whatever. He's in the opening match against Braun Breaker, who we know that's Rick Steiner's son and blah blah blah. And ever since his father's made an ass out of himself in public, now he's had to, for some reason, coincidentally or not, he has sort of taken a downward slide in his trajectory. I'm sure it's just a coincidence that all happened at the same time. I'm sure one thing has nothing to do with the other, even though he's completely innocent of the situation. But whatever, you got he by association is just part of this business. Doesn't matter.
Sucks. He actually had a really great response to that too.
Yeah, but in any case, so you have Baron Corbin go down there, and like I said, they're in the opening match, and big brawl there. First of all, you got two heels, right? And then you're expecting, I don't know what they thought people were supposed to respond to this with. Like, who are they supposed to cheer for in this situation where you don't like either one of these guys? Then you just put Baron Corbin over. So it's like, I don't understand the direction we're going here. And people were saying like, oh, they're ready to call Braun up. They're ready to call Braun up. Well, maybe, I understand, in the territory days, you used to do the favors on the way out of your territory, but that was back when nobody would see it. And when you went to another territory, they weren't necessarily seeing what you did because they couldn't get that TV program, or they couldn't be in those live shows because now you're in another market. So you're just a fresh face coming in. If you're in the same company and they just beat you, then if they want to call you up, why would we want the loser? If somebody on Raw, if our Raw or SmackDown GM is going to say, oh, we need somebody from NXT, why are they going to pick the loser? Oh, this guy just lost his belt. Well, that's who I want. Ilya Dragunov finally became the NXT champion by beating Carmelo Hayes. So if Carmelo Hayes is going to get called up and he's not the champ, why would you not want the champion? Why would you want the guy that lost? It doesn't make sense. So they've really got to put together a better strategy for their development of the talent that's going to take the next step and start making them look strong on their way to Raw and SmackDown.
It's not that difficult. Like, if you're going to call up a champion, call up other champion and be like, all right, we're going to vacate the title and we'll figure out a way to fill it. It's not that difficult.
Apparently it is extremely difficult. It's so difficult. But that's why we sit in our seat, because we don't know how difficult it is. We are just small-time podcasters who have no knowledge or experience whatsoever. But nonetheless, we are ready to impart our lack of knowledge and experience to you all with a review of Impact. So I understand that we do not have a Punching Up Impact this week, and I'm sure it will return, perhaps next week or at the earliest convenience
Yep,
of
I am
Brandon
shooting.
here.
Yep, I'm shooting for a two-parter for the two-parter of the 1,000 episode.
Ooh, all right. That's a big package. It's a large package, pal.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. All right. Well, without any further ado, we will get into this Impact review, and we will get you guys out of here and in bed at a reasonable hour. So let's start with the ketchup packet. And that is shorthand for their recap intro now. It's become another thing that we do here, running gag. And we're just gonna start off hot. We're starting off hot. It's the X Division Championship match. Alan Angel said he's not waiting. He's cashing this shit in. He's not gonna wear it like a necklace. And he's challenging Chris Sabin for the X Division Championship. So right off the bat, they start their match, and they do they do a couple of things that I could do without for the rest of my wrestling viewing life. They do the that close spot. Like these are when if I see one more wrestler do the that close thing, like, do you not realize this has already been tired for years and years now? There's that. He does Alan Angels does that, and the discount double check, the title around the waist motion, like back to back, right at the top of the match. After the bell's already rung, too, so like it's not like he's saying I'm gonna be he's already in the match competing against the champion, and he's making the belt motion at the champion in the match. So great start there. And they work some hip toss arm drag, which is very, very basic. It seems like this looked like the beginning of this kind of looked like a wrestling drill that you would run at a school. Did you see that? You saw that,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's just how little that Sabin thinks of Angels or whatever, that he's like, let's get remedial here. I I don't know, but another thing that I noticed. So Alan Angels hits him with an arm breaker, right? And whatever, if you don't know what I mean, it's like he grabs he grabs Chris Sabin's arm and falls to his back, and Chris Sabin takes a bump, and it looks like he's giving his arm a code breaker. All right. So he does that, and then Chris Sabin falls to the mat, and he's selling, but he's not selling so bad that he can't use his hurt arm to fix his elbow pad on his other arm, right? And this would be a constant thing that I'm watching throughout the match. You guys are watching a wrestling match, if you're watching this at all. I'm watching this fucking guy sell his or try to sell his arm and completely ignore the fact that that his arm is hurt, as he uses his hurt arm to fix the elbow pad on his other arm, which keeps sliding down. It's a match within a match. It's Chris Sabin versus his elbow pad, which is apparently too big, which means that he either got a new elbow pad that didn't fit right, or he's lost weight and his arm is shrunk and it doesn't fit in the elbow pad anymore. So he's constantly having to fool with this elbow pad throughout the match when he's supposed to be selling. But when he is selling, he's also doing this thing where he does the, oh my God, why? Oh, if I had a muffin right now. So he does the thing where he's selling by shaking his arm, like he's trying to shake feeling back into it, like he has pins and needles, like his arm fell asleep or something. Bro, if something has happened to your shoulder or your elbow joint, like if a man has hyperextended or done something to your bones, okay, shaking feeling back into it isn't going to do anything. You know, when my wrist broke, I didn't just like, you know, I didn't just start going like this. I just got to get some feeling back into my broke wrist. It doesn't work like that. That's not the sell. And I'm saying that because the rest of the time he's selling it where he's like holding his arm close to his body like you do when your arm is broken. Like he's trying to have a match with his arm, you know, tucked into his chest. You know, if you can see me on video here, like you know, the camera's not that, but he's holding his arm in that L shape close to his body. But every once in a while, he's trying to shake feeling back into it, even though he could have a possible fracture. So that's definitely the best way to sell that, right, Brandon? That is the proper sell for that?
I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody does. Anyway, this is Goldberg 98 we're talking about. You really didn't think Alan Angel was going to win this belt, right?
Oh,
So Chris Sabin's going to kick out of a low blow and the roll up, you know, which is a deadly move in and of itself. And he's going to hit his cradle shock and 1, 2, 3.
Oh, even with one arm, he's still going over.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, this was not designed to get Alan Angels over in any way. A good worker can definitely get somebody over even while winning. But we've seen what this is. Nothing new in 20 years. Same old Sabin. I once thought highly of Sabin at a period of time. Maybe I was just comparing him to the field back then, like of other, you know, small guys that were in TNA at the time and doing a lot of stuff that made no sense. I thought, now here's a guy who, you know, does a lot of stuff, and some of it doesn't not make sense. But, you know, again, when it's fun to look back and see what people have learned over a period of time. Like when you see late stage people where the light bulb goes off and you say, oh, I was just talking on the Monday Locker Room earlier today. No, it wasn't Monday Locker Room. It was, excuse me, it was the Wreckage, I believe. When we were complaining, we were lamenting the slide of Chris Jericho's career and saying how there was a point in time where the light bulb went off. And it was about 2008 when he put on suits and started talking slowly. And I was like, oh, this is so different from the guy that was just trying to do a bunch of stuff, you know, like I could see the wisdom, you know, it was visible, it was palpable. And that's all gone now. But at least, like I said, for a time you could see the progression. And with Sabin, I haven't seen that. It's just the same thing for 20 years. But so speaking of 20 years, a video of Kenta plays after the match. And they're just saying he's returning at Bound for Glory, which you just assume he's in a match with Chris Sabin, which he ends up, you know, they end up confirming later, but that's basically it. But if you're concerned that Chris Sabin's arm may be too hurt to defend his X Division Championship at Bound for Glory, don't worry. He even put the belt on the injured shoulder side, so it's okay. It can support 10 pounds, so support 10 extra pounds.
Yeah,
his arm will be fine.
Too hard to do this. Too hard to do this.
Yep. So. Well, that was that match. What are your thoughts on the whole thing? Alan Angels, the arm selling, Kenta, everything.
It felt like a waste of 15 minutes just to get to, hey, we're doing Kenta versus Sabin at Bound for Glory.
So, huh?
I mean, I think there's more that could have been done with Sabin and Angels, but, you know, Sabin's Goldberg 98.
That's true. It's nothing you can do. Alex Shelley's with Gia and no music underneath. Apparently now, Alex Shelley respects Josh Alexander. I respect you, Booker man. No,
What are we doing?
I don't know.
Like, can we
Oh,
keep consistency?
I don't know. I thought you were gonna say, "Can we keep it moving?" And we can. Jimmy T joins us. Hello, Jimmy. Um, we get Rhino versus Jack Price. I know exactly what you're thinking. Who? Um,
Who?
yeah. Well, it goes exactly how you think it would go. Um, so afterwards, Burt Macklin attacks, but Rhino just fights him off. So he gets blindsided, but then he just beats him up. And then, hopefully Macklin gets fired for this. We'll see. Um, you can't be just attacking people, That's a fireable offense in wrestling.
I feared for my life just watching it.
Yep. Even though this was taped, you still, it's very scary.
I thought Steve Macklin might come through through my computer screen and come get me, like the Wade Keller that one time with Samoa Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's possible. Uh, let's see. All right, Tasha Steele is interrupted by Deanna. They form a possible alliance, I guess, because why not? Did this just seem like, hey, you're a wrestler and I'm a wrestler. Let's be wrestlers. Like, I don't know where did this team up come from?
I know, but it did kind of bring something to my, like, at least this is how I feel, is like, what left does Deanna have to accomplish in Impact? I mean, she's won the tag title, she's won the women's knockout title on multiple occasions, had great matches with so many different people. Like, what else is there left for her to do there at this point in time?
I don't know. What's left for a lot of people to do there? This I I don't know. I don't know, but this is random. Um then we have Fat Eddie and Thin Lishy, and then Frankie Kazarian walks in and says, "We got to find a way to end this." I don't know. It looked pretty decisive when he kicked the shit out of you at Killer Kowalski's school and left you on the ground and broke a picture over you, and he did everything but basically piss on you and pull his pants down, and take a big shit on you. So, other than that, I don't know how we. I thought that was the way to end this. I'm pretty sure that was the way to end this, with you looking like trash, even though you bet on yourself. So we gotta find another way. How are you gonna top getting beat in your own mentor's school?
Yeah, this is where this angle has been confusing, where it's like there's not really much thought put into it. Like, hey, let's do this match. Hey, then let's do this match. And let's do this match. Hey, let's get our wives involved. Like, not a whole lot of thought really going into this.
Not a lot of thought going into this, and not a lot of thought going to getting out of it. It's like, why do you, if you guys want to work together so much, then why'd you put that stipulation and that gimmick match on already? The cinematic match. Why'd you do that if you didn't intend to end it?
Right. You would think that would be like the conclusion of everything.
Yeah. So, anyway, speaking of conclusions, we get Joya with the full routine, but it's got an undercurrent of sadness now because we know that this could be the last time that we ever see it, at least here in Impact. And they're going to have a goodbye ceremony, and it's interrupted by the Rascals. For some reason, they just come out to be jerks. And then Hendry, he's had enough, and he just straight up sucker punches, and starts a fight. And then Santino comes out, and I was like, okay, he's going to fire Hendry like he should. That this is uncalled for. And then he actually makes a match, right? And yeah. And if Joya wins, then Yuya gets to keep his job. So, hope spot for Mr. Uemura there, Uemura-san. He has a chance to not be fired. and so there's a little intrigue there.
Yeah,
But then
I thought there's a chance. Oh, they might go over because of this.
yeah, and then I immediately thought of like, wait a minute, what if the Rascals didn't come out? You were just gonna let him be fired? I mean, if he okay, you know, like what if nobody came out? He could have just been fired, and that would have been it. But
Right, like if Santana really cared that much about his job, he could have set that match up like so far in advance.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that would also, if you did that, that also kills the gimmick. The Feast or Fired. Like, why do we even have the match? It's like, oh, not really fired, and we know they don't take the firing thing seriously, but it's a good way to have a loser leaves town match, you know. But you gotta, you know, have the loser leave town after that.
And funny enough, like in that same promo, they mentioned like, well, I can't give you a tag title shot because ABC's got the briefcase.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know, you can only face this set of champions. Like, if the titles change hands, I'm sorry, you don't get a shot. That's how the briefcase works, right? Did they ever explain the time limit on these briefcases? Is it like a 1 year like Money in the Bank, or did they ever said that?
I want to say like at the first one they said it was a year, but then I don't think they've said much after that or anything after that.
Okay. Jimmy T says, "Where's the muffins, Vet?" Well, I ate them all. I definitely had a big munch down on wreckage on Sunday. There was they said they got to the point in the show where it was the Kingdom versus the Best Friends in a TV match, and I just shoved the whole thing. Crumbs were flying everywhere. I had to get a dustbuster for the office here. So anyway, we do get the Joya versus Rascals match that we didn't know we wanted until we saw it, and then we saw it, and then we realized, well, I don't know. I'm not gonna say anything really that bad about the match, other than it just wasn't that great. And ultimately, it's just spray paint again, spray paint in the eyes of Yuya, and then they small package him, and then he unceremoniously is, you know, still fired as planned. No goodbye. So not only did they give him the hope spot, but the ceremony that they were going to have before the Rascals inserted themselves into this, we don't get that either. So fuck you. Goodbye. Get out. That's it. What do you think?
I know. I kind of thought this was going to lead to Yuya coming or staying with the company, because it's like, why would you spend like that much time and effort in getting new tights, new gear, new production, new video, new music, all that, and like, okay, buy it within like a month. So I thought this was going to be like their way out of that.
That's a good question. Maybe they just wanted you to believe it that much more. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Gia catches Giselle on her way to somewhere, and Giselle cuts a promo. I guess she's got a match. She's at the main event. And then we get a design vignette with music underneath, where they say that Khan is coming for Josh Alexander.
And it's
Big Khan.
And he's going to get beat like everybody else who gets in the ring with him.
Yep. Yeah, I gotta say, man, if you're gonna have, you cannot have a. This is not even the only person in Impact that's like this. We talk about Savannah Evans like this. You can't have a heater type character that just never wins. You're basically just saying, like, as soon as you tell me Khan's having a match, I know he's not going over. If you put him in there with somebody like Jack Price, I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, Khan's going over. But that's the only time. Anytime he's up against anybody, any other name on this roster. If it was him versus Yu Uemura and the loser gets fired, I know Khan's getting fired. Like, I know that. So there's really no point in even having guys like this. And there's no point in beating guys like this. You don't have to have them always get beat. You know, the heat is in Cody or Diener getting beat, you know? Like, that's the heat, and him getting beat and always saying, like, blaming somebody else for it, and or just not acknowledging that he was beat or acting like it never happened. When you beat the guy that shouldn't get beat all the time, but that it's just a function of how the business in general has changed. It's like these AEW Impact or whatever, they're just bringing bigger guys in for the smaller guys to go over on, so it looks more impressive. You know?
Brian Cage.
And I understand if there's no value on some of the bigger guys that you could use them in that way, but some of the other bigger guys are pretty good. So, you know, you have to know where to or how to use your talent accordingly. But you tell me Josh Alexander's got a match with Big Khan, I'm sorry. There's not a doubt in my mind who's going over in that match. So, yeah, no point. So next is the Memphis Street Fight. Why? I don't know. Just because. It's Sheldon Jeans and Kenny King who get the jobber entrance, by the way. Match comes back from, or the show just comes back from break with them in the ring. And then we get Heath and Tommy Dreamer making their entrance. And then, we get a street fight. Now, what was interesting to me about this match, I don't know if you saw this, you may have, you probably did, but I think Tommy Dreamer got stabbed or sliced by that trash can that he took a bump on. Because he was like, at first I thought he was just fat and fiddling with his clothes again. But he kept doing it for a long time, and he was clearly talking to the ref, the giant lady ref. He was talking to Kenny. He was talking to everybody, and he just, like, at one point just took himself out of the match. It was like over in the corner, and it just looked like he was like, I don't know what he was doing. At first I thought he was trying to pull up his pants. Then it looked like he was trying to, like, hold something in, like he got cut open or something. And he kept looking at his hand, so I assumed he was checking for blood. So I was like, what the fuck is he doing? So I ran it back, which I never like to do this. I like to just move on with my life and not spend any more time on Impact I have to. But I actually ran it back and watched him take that spine buster on the trash can. And it looked like part of the lid sort of like broke and came up, and it could have like stabbed him in the left side around the kidney area or somewhere like that. He kept grabbing around like the front of his pelvis, like his lower side. So I don't know what happened, but yeah, he was fucked up for a minute. And then eventually he just got back in the match and kept going. At one point he looked like he was going for a superplex off the, like he had a ladder set up on in between the top and second turnbuckles and was trying to balance on the ladder for a superplex. And I was like, what the fuck? You can't even barely do a suplex on the mat. But anyway, that was just a tease for him to get cut off or whatever. And then, eventually there's a table set up in the corner, and he gives Sheldon a Death Valley driver through that. And I'm like, fuck that, dude. I'm not taking no move like that from Tommy Dreamer at this stage of his life. I have no confidence that he's going to protect me, He almost looked like he stumbled through it. Like he couldn't support Sheldon's weight, and he just kind of fell over and the table broke. I'm sure Sheldon was fine. But to what we were talking about earlier about Edge and, being able to say, "Hey, look, I'm not doing that." Maybe Sheldon could have stuck up for himself here, but I guess he survived. Um, and then that's the 1, 2, 3 right there. As look, I guess Kenny and Heath fought up the ramp and everything, and then after this, Crazy Steve, if he is in fact crazy, uh, brought his briefcase in and attacked Tommy with it. Because remember, Steve's got the Digital Media Championship shot in his briefcase, and he's wearing a baseball cap and a T-shirt, both of which he tears off, and then, you know,
And no face paint.
no face paint. I don't know what the point of the hat was. Like, did it matter? Were you in disguise? I'm not sure what. I don't really get it, but you did attack somebody outside of a match, so I think you should be fired now. I just think.
My name's a Scorpion. I'm from the desert.
So what do what the Memphis Street Fight, Brandon? Memphis Street Fight.
No different than a Detroit street fight, a New York street fight, a Los Angeles street fight, a Houston street fight, a St. Louis street fight, a Tallahassee street fight.
Took place in the ring too.
Yeah, like I miss the street fights that actually went out into the street.
Yeah. Well, they've done that before too, but I guess this wasn't. I don't know. It's another case of like, well, an old fat guy beat a younger in shape guy for a championship, and that's not the end of it. Like what else is that? What does Kenny King get out of this? Like he already had to do a job for this guy that his pants wouldn't stay on and he can barely move. So you got to further like, oh, and let's have a street fight. Why? Why should we? It's over. You took his belt. There's nothing you can say. He's not going to get his belt back in this match. So what's the point? Why are we doing it? This would be like if you had a match at Killer Kowalski's school and then you just kept kept the angle going and would say, we got to finish this somehow. I'm pretty sure we finished it. So there you go. You might have to unmute yourself if you have anything to say.
Just repetitive, basic, like could do something different and just I don't know.
We can't. No, we can't. But we can do an ABC promo until John Schuyler interrupts, just to let everybody know that Jason Hotch is at home with a newborn. So there's not going to be a match. And ABC tell them, well, find a partner. It's, and then he says he hates Memphis. So it's just riveting. I don't even care if you want to say anything to this. I'm just moving on.
Yeah, it's about as riveting as you explained it.
Yeah. Octoball faces off for the 17th time or so. I can't remember. I've lost count.
This was actually way more riveting than that last segment.
Yes. So I put the note that I'm glad that Gresham is in a good enough mental state that he feels like wearing his entrance gear again instead of a t-shirt. Remember when he was just coming out in a t-shirt? Like, yeah, whatever. He's back to, he's got his whole, he's got his whole mask and a robe and everything. He looks cool again. So I'm glad he's back to that. He is still sweating though. Usually around the 6-7 minute mark, the sweat is just like pouring out of him, and he does look in pretty good shape. So you know what that means. I'm just gonna mention it every time. I'm just concerned. I'm worried about the man's health. Because I don't want anything to happen.
Get some better advice.
Mm-hmm. And then so these guys, they pretty much got an idea what they're doing. It's always interesting. One thing I notice about Jonathan Gresham's matches is I don't always like everything he does, but I like that he's definitely got ideas. And you could tell that they're his ideas because no one else that he's in these matches with does them in their matches. It's I don't see Mike Bailey going and doing some of the things in his matches that happen when he's wrestling Jonathan Gresham. So I know it's Jonathan Gresham always thinking, trying to come up with different ways. So you can't say Jonathan Gresham just goes, through the motions and has the same match every time. He's always thinking of different things and creative things. And I think this finish was, if I had to guess, I'd say this finish was his idea.
I would assume so as well.
Because again, we see what Impact comes up with, right? When it's not a Jonathan Gresham match. I've never seen this in my life. I don't think. If I have, I don't remember it. But basically, the way it works is, if, for everybody that didn't watch the match, which is, I assume all of you, if there's a spot you could do in matches. I used to do it myself whenever I got a chance because it's easy and it tells us a miniature story. So what you do is you cover a guy and he kicks out, then you cover him again, then he kicks out, and then you cover him a third time and he kicks out. It's usually after, this is at the point of which you are frustrated and now you would grab a hold because he obviously can't be put down, so you have to wear him down some more. And you give him a chance to, if you're a baby face, you give him a chance to fight up and come back. I used to love doing that because, like I said, it's very easy. And you do it differently. Like, I would just, I just pin him shoulders only, and then just hold him down. Then he'd kick out. Then I'd hook a leg, and then he'd kick out. Then I'd hook two legs, and then he'd kick out again. And I'm like, fuck, I'd get frustrated and get on him and start punching him or whatever it is to show the people, like, this guy's not giving up and I'm getting mad now. That is the story. It's very simple. However, Jonathan Gresham has a different idea. He goes for a cover, kick out, hook a leg, kick out, hook the trunks, 1, 2, 3. So, boom, he gets the spot over that a match can end at any time. 2, he actually gets pulling the trunks over, because it's something that it makes the difference between a guy that's unable to be pinned and getting pinned, right? And it comes up with a way out, and it tells a miniature story in that it's like, hey, wait a minute, I thought we were cool, which is what Mike Bailey's saying as he gets up and he's like, appealing to the referee, like, hey, you grabbed my trunks, and to go to the crowd, like, you saw it, he grabbed my trunks, right?
Yep, and it also makes the story that they're building with Gresham mean so much more than him talking about, like, the last month, 2 months, about how there's all this cheating, all this rule breaking going on behind the ref's back, and nothing ever is done about it. So if he's basically going, okay, fuck this, I guess I'll play along too.
That's right. So it totally makes sense in the context of what they're doing. So this is a case to me. Now, this is just to me and probably to you, Brandon, but to me, what this looks like is a lemonade. It looks like chicken salad. It looks like, okay, look, this is what you're giving me, so I'm going to try to make it make sense with everything else that you've given me and move things forward. And this is the kind of thing you do even if the creative isn't thinking about you or the other guy at all. Which, again, when you stack it up against literally the whole rest of this show, it's pretty clear that there's different thought processes at work with just this one match versus everything else on the show. Everything else on the show is just the most lazy, paint by numbers, cliched, non-creative, treading water, anything you want to say. And then this one little thing on the show is like, And it just so happens to be one of the least focused on things. So to me, that tells me it's like the talent working to try to figure out a way to get themselves over without necessarily undoing any of the other creative plans, right? So I'm not saying that they had 100% to do with it, but I'm sure there was some input from the guys.
I guarantee a lot of that was Gresham. He definitely comes across as somebody who like puts a lot of thought process into trying to make sense of anything that he's handed.
Well, yeah, you've been up and down the roads with Gresham a little bit, right? So I mean, you have a general idea of what he's like. Was he? My read is that he's constantly thinking about being different and things that are unique. Is that accurate?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Any Gresham stories that fit into
Uh,
this?
and the
No.
only real story I could think of is there's one time where it was me, three other guys who were pretty big sized, Gresham and Jordan Grace, all of us driving down from St. Louis to Atlanta in my tiny ass car that only fit 5 people. So basically, like throughout the ride, we had a switch. We sat on everybody's lap in the back between Jordan and Gresham.
That's funny. That's wrestling, baby. So yeah. So not only all the stuff that we said, but you know, um, wasn't it Mike Bailey? He has a match upcoming, right? At
Yes,
Bound for Glory.
yes, I believe it's him and Osprey.
Yeah. So Will Ospreay is taking on Mike Bailey, and the story they were saying is like, you know, Gresham's like, you're on another. This guy's on another level. Are you at that level? And he knows what it takes to be a champion. That was the story that they told when they made this match in the first place. So this finish also feeds into the like doing whatever it takes to be a champion thing. So seems like there's so much more to talk about and intrigue in this one match than everything else Impact has been doing, right? It's amazing.
Again, it's his, I think his thought process is on a different level than a lot of people in that company.
Right. Plus, he's got his ranking in last year's PWI 500 to show you. Probably not this year. I don't know what he was. I don't know what he was ranked this year, but um. So yeah. All right. Well, so there was that, and then we go from that to another, I guess, a highlight, even though it's kind of a low light in the sense that it was a highlight, if that makes sense, which I'll try to make sense here. So Moose and Myers are backstage on the Batman 66 set, and he's got the briefcase in his hands. He says, I've got the world championship match in my hands. And then he, says to Myers, hey, if it was the tag team, we would have already been the champions by now. But, whatever. And Myers is happy for Moose. He's he says that he deserves it and everything. And then Moose is saying it's been a while since he's dipped his toes in the singles waters or whatever, even though he had that match with Kevin Knight not that long ago, but whatever. So he's making an open challenge for a match, a one-on-one match. So whoever answers that, they're ready for that. So I say it's a highlight because Moose appeared, but I say it's a low light because this is the only time that Moose appeared, and it's just to say this obvious, nothing happening, treading water, just reminding everybody that Moose has a world title match. We'll see what they do with it, but
I felt they could have done a lot more with this by like kind of building that thing where like Moose is very clearly out for himself, but he's kind of stringing Myers along, where Myers actually believes that Moose gives a shit about him when he really doesn't. And I thought they could have got a lot more out of that, but they dropped the ball on that.
well, it depends. How long is he going to carry this thing around? Like, there's still time, but I don't know. All right. Burt Macklin wants Bully to help him deal with Rhino, and Bully says he'll talk to him, and Macklin's like, "Talk to him." And Bully's like, "Yeah, I'll talk to him."
Obviously, they're setting up for a face turn for Bully, right?
Yes, yes, obviously. Even though he came in as a face, and everybody said he was a heel, so he turned heel. But anyway, yeah. So basically, Bert calls him soft. That's basically the point? Which that's a thing that people that's a word people like to throw around these days. It's cool. It's a cool thing in wrestling. You know, either on camera or behind the camera to call people soft. It's just a cool. We want to talk about how soft everybody is now. That's what we like to do. So this is no different.
SAWFT.
Yeah, it was actually was cool to call people soft back then. Uh, but they're not doing that one. They're doing a different one. So yeah, all right, whatever. And your main event is Giselle Shaw versus Trinity. Is this for the title or I don't remember?
I believe it was non-title.
Non-title.
So yeah,
But,
because like part of the whole thing they're doing with the commentary and the lead up to it was like, oh, if it wins, it could lead to a shot at Bound for Glory.
great. Well, isn't that lazy? It's like WWE book. Lab Rat says Blue Chew, you know, because everybody's soft. So, yeah. I do
Get
like
it?
how I do like how no matter what the demographic is, you know, any ads that you see centered around wrestling, whether it's on podcasts or whether it's on Access TV, it's like manscaping and dick pills. You know, just it lets you know what the advertising lets you know um what they think of the audience. So, or what at least the companies think your audience is.
Let's just say I'm glad I'm not the only one who thought that.
You are not the only one. No, everybody that watches wrestling is, you know, too hairy and has a limp penis. That's basically, you know, what I've learned in the decades of listening to advertisements. So
And there's people who can help you with that.
that's right. But anyway, Shaw versus Trinity. I don't know. What do you think? It says Trinity over with the Starstruck. That's the finish. Spoiler. And then some stuff happens. But before that, we'll get your thoughts on the actual contest.
I mean, it was an all right match. I mean, both obviously know how to work, know what they're doing. They know their characters. They know how to get over. It's just like, what's really the point of watching this match for 15 minutes? There's really nothing on the line.
I don't know what the point is.
Like,
I get your
why?
point that there's no point.
Like, why not make it a title match if you're going to go this long? And then you have the whole Mickey James run out thing.
Yes, and then you have the whole Mickey James run out thing, and she runs out because Savannah and Jay just beat up Trinity after she wins, and yeah, then we get Mickey come out, and then you know, she fights him off, and then so we should probably fire them too, and you know, at the very least, suspend Mickey James. I think we should suspend her because you know,
Oh, I feared for my life just watching it.
yeah. Or we could just give her a rematch at Bound for Glory. You know, she never lost, so we can reward this behavior with a title match. I mean, it worked for Jeff Hardy, right?
I mean, that's basically the thought process or storyline behind Josh Alexander and Alex Shelley, so why not?
Why not? I think why not is the nicest reason that you could ever endorse Impact Wrestling with. If you're trying to, if someone says, "Why should I watch Impact Wrestling?" Like that's the best way you could say, "Wow, why not?" You know, that this whole show feels like a why not. You know, it's like I guess. I mean, they didn't screw anything up too bad. Just a lot of nothing. So, but that's basically a state of the business these days. A lot of nothing.
Again, like the whole show entourage that's DOA. Like you're not going to get that, or they've been beat too many times. There's nothing they can do to salvage that.
Yep. Impact Wrestling. At least we aren't RuPaul. Impact Wrestling, because why not? I mean, great taglines for Impact to consider using. they won't. But that's basically the flavor of this. So, you know, here lies another episode of Impact. I'm not gonna say too many words over it. I'm just I hope it's in a better place now. And we'll let you all get back to your better places. Football, Monday Night Raw, anything else. We appreciate you spending time with us. Hopefully, we made it speed by a little less painfully than Anthem Entertainment does. So, I guess we should wrap it up. Brandon, tell the people where they can find you outside of this illustrious broadcast.
As always, you can catch me on Twitter, or as they call it now, the X at Transarchistia. I'm also on Twitch at twitch.tv/Miss Tia the Transarchist, and I'm also on Substack at HMG Brandon.
All right. And Substack, you can catch up on all the punching up impacts that have been done to this point. And we'll see. You could compare and contrast. Who did it better? Impact Wrestling or Brandon by himself in his free time, just throwing stuff out there. And as for me, Opinion Haver at all the social media places. You can find me all over HMG, Monday Locker Room as of this recording this morning. Timmy Baltimore hopped on. We discussed some things. Ben Hameen getting a little more in his personal business stuff, talking about stuff from Immortal and other things. So we'll we cover some of that and a little bit of news. Then you got Next Level Wrestling Review on Wednesday. Big Ray and I will talk about No Mercy. So that's 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. For a big super review show there. And then you got The Wreckage every Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, where we sift through the wreckage after the collision, the AEW collision. You can watch me eat muffins live, usually. It's that kind of a show. And then, any of the other things, twitch.tv. Opinion Haver on all that. Check out Wrestling with Rip Rogers every Concrete Friday at noon, unless it's a different day that's also Concrete. But whatever time it is, it's always Concrete. So like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then you'll never miss a Concrete time. Check out Stevie Richards' Wrestling Analysis. New video today. What Went Right? His new series, What Went Right? Talking about Chris Jericho and something about getting disqualified. I haven't had a chance to catch it yet because it's a fresh video. So you could, just check that out and be sure to wear oven mitts. Check out his fitness, check out his podcast, check out everything Stevie Richards. And thank you for checking us out. And we'll be back next week. And until then, for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I don't have a sign-off line.